Hi everyone, it's TTL back with another video for you, and today I'm going to talk to you or review, or I don't even know what I can pronounce for this one, but it is the Coolermaster HAF 700. Now this is a proper HAF, but if you don't like RGB, might not be for you. But we do need to remember at the end of the day, you can turn it off. And when I say this is a proper HAF, oh my days, the amount of fans that you can fit in this thing is bonkers. 2 360mm radiators in the roof alone. It's nuts. Turn some more lights on so that we can see, and I'm gonna have to turn the case itself off because I'm going to be able to need to work. So, work. There is an awful lot for us to look at. Now, the roof panel, you have to remove a screw here, which I've already done. Then you can lift the roof panel off. When you lift the roof panel off, straight away what I'm going to tell you is you can see that there's a large recess here. This is so that you can have fans above if you want. Now you could have fans above blowing in, but I think most of us are going to have fans above blowing out. You know, working with the laws of thermodynamics and all that, heat rises, get it out of your case. The one thing to think about though, if you are going to go for a full stack of external fans, the front part of this is slightly covered up, so it's not completely open for when you close the door itself. Now the front part comes to about here. Now that's massive. You can still get a radiator in that, and when you do take the front panel, sorry, the roof panel off, then the side panels come off like that. Give it a bit of a lift, show you the tint. It's ever so slightly tinted. It's got a very light tint, and I actually really like that about it. Then the other side, give this one a pull, lift it around, turn it around, and on this we have two mesh filters. One is for the power supply up here. This up at the front is for if you have a radiator over here. Now I am going to stick or start with the back, but we have an awful lot to cover, so please do get comfortable because it's not a simple case. For starters, let's go here. Hard drive mount, yes, then removable. You literally tool free can just pop it out just like that. Bosh, twist, fit. You can have a hard drive on there if you want, but if we go like this and remove all of those, you can see that you then have a mount for a radiator. Now this doesn't stop here, it goes all the way to the roof, and that's what this cutout is all about. So you can put 480mm radiator in the side if you want. We'll talk about sizes in a minute, and we'll also talk about these thumb screws in a minute as well because of what's on the other side. I am going to leave these off for now though, so think about that when we're on the business side of the case in a minute. Tool free again, just over here. Push the tab down, rotate out, lift. That gives us a mount for 4 3.5-inch mechanical hard drives, but you can also, because obviously they mount different things, you can put 2.5-inch hard drives, whether they're mechanicals or solid state drives, completely up to you. And I'll show you how easy this is to fit again afterwards as well. That's it. Literally, it's so simple, it's ridiculous. I'm going to leave that out for now just so that we can chat and talk about the other area. So, power supply down here. This I love, and I don't know why we've never seen it before, to the point I'm going to change the camera a little bit and zoom us in because I genuinely love this. There's only two screws. They're thumb screws and they're captive so that they don't fall out. And that's how you fit your power supply. Slide your power supply in, thumb screws, bosh, that's it, done. Like, how simple was that? A power supply mount with captive screws. It's like, I don't know, it's like wizardry. Now, the fact that we can remove the hard drive cage up here, you can see that there's a big vent over here. In reality, there's not going to be any airflow back here, so this is just going to be so that they can radiate outwards. If you wanted to mod some in there, that's going to be completely up to you, but it would be a mod. There are cable ties around here so that you can cable tie in your 8-pin CPU cable, but in reality, your hard drive cage completely conceals this. Now, I am going to say, if you don't use mechanical hard drives and you're not fussed about that, we're going to keep in mind this open blank area over here for now. Sure, the thing that I'm going to talk to you about later is a possibility. Power supply being underneath, maybe not great, but if we build our systems correctly, let's just assume things don't leak. So this is a definite possibility. Also, the only thing I'm a bit unsure about, like with your power supplies, if you are not going to be cutting and trimming things down and everything, this is going to be a really good spot for you to hide your cables with. And you can get them all in there. There's ample room, but they have given you some plastic tabs that are hinged on the back anyway. So they have done a great deal to help you. Now, I know that we're having difficulty with lighting and stuff like that because it's all black, but it's just because it's kind of struggling with the reflective surfaces and then the fact it's all black. But there is a hinge down here, a cable tie, and it's massive. Like, I can pretty much, I reckon it's about the size of my wrist, easily a bit bigger, and you can put all your cables through there. Now, I've left all these down here bunched on purpose. A, lazily, but B, because we're not all superhuman cable tidying gurus that want to spend 5 hours just doing that. And you cannot see it when the side panel's on. So you can kind of hide it. Now, I am going to undo these 2 thumb screws for when we get to the other side. And you're just going to have to trust me when I pull them off. I'm hoping it's not going to move too much. But there is something on the other side, which is kind of great. Now, the other thing I do want to say is you can see that it has moved. There is a cavernous amount of room back here behind the motherboard tray, but the top is kind of shelved. So what this does mean is we have access to all this extra space on the top of the case, but from the business side of the case. Now, when I spin this round, it is because of the infinity mirror on this side. And what they've done, it is just a mirror, but they've done this so that if you don't use the mount on the other side, it kind of covers it up. And I haven't taken the plastic off, but it is actually a proper tempered glass mirror. Now, I want to show you what you can do with this in a sec, because it does have these little mounts on it. What they've done is actually really cool. I hate the fact that they thought about so much. Now, there is a lot for us to talk about in reality on this side of the case. And to be fair, I'm just going to have to work through with you slowly, because you can remove the roof. The whole thing, you can take it off, which is why I'm doing it. And I wanted to talk about it because, bosh, there you go, that's the roof. Now, you can see that we have some of the mounts on here for the sliding roof panel, which does sit on here like this. And it just goes to show you how big this case is when you can see that the roof panel sits in the middle of it. But the case is enormous. So if you think about 120mm fan sits about here, you can see how much room there is in reality. So you can comfortably get a 360mm radiator in the roof, but not just one, 2. You can put 2 360mm radiators in this roof panel, bolt them all up with your radiators and your fans, and then all you have to do is pop the roof back on, put your 2 screws on. That's it. But it makes maintenance really easy, and you're going to need it as well, because as I search around for my tape measure, there is an absolute behemoth of room. So we have this ledge up here, and above that ledge there is 105 millimeters of room. So if you wanted to put an 80 millimeter thick radiator in the roof, technically two, you could do, and you could put a couple of fans in the top. You do need to think about the fact that that's your only mesh area in the middle, but you could all the same put them both up there. You could just run the fan in the middle if you wanted, like right down the very, very middle, but I think the off kind of piece, you know, nature of that might do in some of your, excuse me, it might do some of your OCD in, but the option is there for you anyway. There are grommets down the back that you can put cables through. There's grommets on an angle up at the top, but two rads in the roof if you want. You can easily put a 360 down the side as well, and a 360 in the front, and you could do them at the same time as well. If you were only running 30 millimeter thick rads, you could put a 30 millimeter thick rad in the front, in the side and in the front. But here's the thing, I've shown you all this stuff. There is also, as I whiz around and come to move the camera, there is also another mount in the floor, which again has the covers. So it comes with this fan fitted. Talking about fans, on the days. Okay, we'll do that next. It comes with that fan fitted. The other thing that they thought about was that you might want to change the angle of your mounts to maybe direct them up to your graphics card a little bit, and that might seem a little bit weird, and it might do, but I'm going to do the same on this one just to show you. Literally I can take the thumb screw out, and the thumb screw is there just for locking, and then these actually control how much they move, but you can move the front panel as well. Now here is the master stroke. This is where they've really thought about what the crack is. So let's just say you don't want to use this bottom section, but you've got a really fancy water-cooled system if you don't use the a vertical, and they do a vertical one for this. But let's just say you've got a crazy air-cooled graphics card that you've spent an absolute fortune on getting done on eBay for, and you can see that I've just pushed that in. I've not put any screws in, and now suddenly this mount starts to come to life. You can angle it so that you can see a graphics card perfectly in that mirror. Now I think that in itself is a bit nuts, and this is one of the first times in a long time where I've wanted to show you the fact that it does say designed by Coolermaster, because in reality for something like this, and the fact that you can do it in the front if you want, because again, let's face facts, if you're using the side mount as an intake, you could pop this out as a mirror. It's up to you. They've given you the choice to do what you like. And I have to admit, I really like it. Now, okay, so it did come with a fan in the bottom. So we'll pop that back out, pop that one back over there. We'll pop that back in the rubber grommets. Now I know I'm not making this look very, I can't exactly see. Oh, my thumb was in the way. There we go. Right, so have the mirror back in there now. Hello. And around to the back. So what we have around the back is 220 millimeter fans in the back. That is a 240 millimeter mount. Now, because the 240 millimeter mount sits quite so close to the outside, wouldn't necessarily suggest putting a radiator on this, but they're there nonetheless. Airflow is king on this one. Also, this is toolless, literally. And then you're thinking, oh, but you still got to unscrew the bits in the back. Well, actually you don't. They are actually properly toolless. So I'm just going to zoom in down the bottom. You can see, remove and refit. I don't know what my cat's playing with. Push in, clip in. That's it, literally. It's done. It's actually crazily good. Now you can see we've got an absolute acre of room. This is a normal size motherboard in there. Easily fits E80X, easily fits even the big server boards. They have grommets in place for all of them. And the fact that these mounts can also be used to put pumps on, solid state drives on, a lot of reservoirs. You just have infinite options where if you wanted to, I'm not saying you should, but if you wanted to, you can pop things in place and then lock it down, and it's all really easy peasy. Now in total there are 5 of those mounts. So if you were very, I don't know, if you were, I'm not going to say you're going to be building a server, but if you have a lot of hard drives, then you have the option to use all of them. And these will all hold a 3.5 inch and a 2.5 inch hard drive. So you've got 5 there, 4 in the back. That's actually quite a lot of hard drive storage for such a big case. And also such a big case which, you know, when you think about it, is very gamer-esque focused. It's all a bit bonkers mental. And yes, I am going to move the camera again, because I think when we take a step back and take a look at this, and you can see how big and open this is, it is an absolute behemoth. And I think they've actually done quite well. But we've covered a lot of the features. I've probably missed a lot of features as well, because there is so much to cover. But how? Oh, I'll tell you what I have missed actually. So the tool-free things that I said to you about before, the tool-free things can actually be used to remove the radiator panels in their entirety. So they can come out. The bottom fan here is actually wired in, so I can't take it out. But there's the front one, completely removed for you. And again, you can see that mount, and while I've got it out, I'm going to put the thumb screw back in it so it can't rattle around. And then while I have the front out, it's actually a really good time for us to talk about the front fans. And they're 180mm front fans. Look at the size, well, think about the size of them, and then the fact that they, in this case, they look maybe a smidge bigger than 140s. Like, they don't look that massive in this. But in most cases, they would have been edge to edge. And in this, there's actually a big amount of room on the other side. So, it's a bit nuts. But anyway, 180mm fans. They spin up to 1000 RPM. So included in the case, you get 3 120mm RGB fans. They're addressable RGB fans as well. That all syncs up because of, in the back, here's one of the things I forgot to say about. In the back, there is a couple of things that I need to show you. Now, that there is an RGB addressable hub, and that's what the front lights are all being dangled off of. It's a little switch down here and a USB thing, plugs into the motherboard, and that's how you control the main front lights. Then when you scroll up here, there you go. Now, there is in total 5 slots for addressable RGB, and then there's 5 slots for PWM fans. So you can easily, as you can see, we've got the 5 addressable RGB fans that are connected to the case, and then there's another, you've got the 5 PWMs, and in fact, I apologise, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 PWM headers connected, and then there's 2 more up here, so there's 7 in total, but it's just 5 addressable things that they've got. Now, that's a hub, so it's all controlled off of a single PWM, so if you can connect that to your motherboard CPU header, they will all be spun the same speed, and I will talk to you about that in a second. But there we go. Let's see, there's even more that I'd forgotten about. But oh my days, ginormous, lots and lots and lots of things to talk about. Now, I know you've all thought, such a big case, why such low spec hardware? Now, this is the hardware I put in every single one of the ATX cases that I review. And that means that I can test them and then compare them, which with a big airflow case like this is quite critical, because we do want to know whether out of the box it works nice. Now, the CPU fan is just a Coolermaster Hyper 212. It's not in there because of this review. It's gone in all of them. That's actually run off of a 9 volt voltage resistor and then wired direct to a Molex. So it just gets fed with 9 volts. The graphics card is just a GTX 980 and we set the fan speed to 60%. And the reason why we fix those is then when we test it and we change the case fan speeds, it's only the case that can change the temperature of the components that we have inside. And we do a 600 RPM test, and then we do a 1000 RPM test, and then a maximum RPM test. And then the 6 and the 1000 means we can test most cases like that, and then the really high speed ones is for if the internal case fans are capable of doing it. With the hub on this, as I said to you, when you plug them all into the hub and you plug it into the CPU header, at least with it's going to count for everything, because you're only going to be able to control, let's say these fans in the back, let's say they did 3000 RPM, but you've got the 2 fans in the front at 1000 RPM. If you run them at max, it's not necessarily 12 volts. Or it might be. But what we ended up doing is because we know that we can test the front fans at 1000 RPM, because that's the maximum RPM that they will go to. So we did a 600 RPM test for everything, and then we did a 1000 RPM test for everything. And it actually, it did very well, but still, it's obviously very big. It didn't do as well when you look at the graph as the Fractal Torrent. You need to remember that, especially for the graphics card, that had 280mm fans right underneath the graphics cards blowing up, and that's why there was a few degrees in it. The main one for me was, and what we do with the graphs is we have a graph which is sorted for CPU tests, and then we have a graph that is sorted for GPU tests. It's all the same data, it's just sorted differently so that you can make your decisions. Now, one of the things I would say is the CPU tests is going to be good if you're looking at air cooling. The GPU tests are going to be good if you aren't really that fast, concentrating on your graphics card, or maybe you've got an AIO. And that's why I separate it out. It's just for you to use your common sense, take the information, realise how I've tested it, and then apply that to how you're going to build your system at home. So with the 1000 RPM test, I did expect it to do a little better than it did. And in reality, at the bottom of the graph, which is the best bit of the graph because they are the lower temps, you can see that the torrent is still at the bottom, but the 4000D, which does come with a single front fan, but we then added another fan in for some testing on that one, and that was when we did the original review. We didn't do it just for this. It takes me half an hour per run. So CPU is half an hour run, half an hour cooldown. Graphics card is half an hour run, then the cooldown, and that's for each 600, 1000. So on a good day, I can smash the testing out on a case in 3 hours. So I can't do all of those 3 hours for one review. These are the old numbers. So, deep breaths. The 4000D airflow with the extra fan actually jumped in quite nice on this one. It did okay for the CPU, but as you can see, when you go on to the 1000 for the GPU, it actually changes a little bit. And it's still in third place, but you get the NZXT H510 flow in there. So, low RPMs it does very well, not necessarily class leading, but the other thing to remember is this case hasn't been built to its full potential. There is a lot more airflow that you can add, and I think a lot of you that end up buying this case, I don't think you're going to necessarily run it in this config. I think you are going to end up with definitely more fans in the roof, which is going to bring air out. That's going to be a lot better. The front two fans. It's going to depend whether you're going to dangle a radiator on in front of it. But the good thing about it is it's not going to matter if you've got, make sure you fit fans to your rad, and then you're going to be golden, because if you fit fans to the rad, they're just going to be sucking air through. Don't just put a radiator in the front, because it won't pass the air through. It won't be controlled enough. But anyway, so at this present moment in time, quite annoyingly, and I am running out of time, I have not been given a price from Coolermaster yet. So depending on how the editing goes later, I'm going to have to interject in. Now, I do not think this is going to be cheap. I have no idea how much it's going to cost, but I think we are going to be looking at £400–500 maybe. It's going to be very expensive. I may be proven wrong, but I don't know, just because of the sheer size and weight and the amount of time that's gone inside. So I don't know. I can't comment on price yet. And I'm really annoyed about that, because like I said, I am short of time and I should have been told. I should have been told when I got the reviewer's guide, and it wasn't in the reviewer's guide, which annoyed me. But that's a big problem. I do apologise. But, oh my days. Concluding, avoiding the possibility of it being a crazy price, this is worthy of the name HAF. There isn't HAF high airflow, but also, if you like it, high end, because they have covered an awful lot of bases. They have given us an awful lot of options. This is definitely a class leading, range topping, kind of Goldilocks product that's going to sit there at the top of the stack, and it's really going to come down to your ability at home. I did look at this and think to myself, really, you should be putting a big fat graphics card in it and then putting water cooling in it. And then I thought to myself, well, if I put water cooling in it, I'm going to need to put 2 rads in the roof, a rad in the front and a rad in the bottom. And then I was like, well, what do I do about the side? Do I put a rad in both sides and then the mirror on the bottom so that you can see, or do I use a vertical graphics card? And then I actually worked out that there's so many options for this. No matter what I did, someone would always go, you should have, or you could have done that. And I would have been saying I could have done it, but you'd have been saying you should have done it. So I just thought, I'm not going to be able to win, so let's just show it, test it, and then me just waffle on, as I do, for 3 hours about the fact that there's just an almost infinite amount of possibilities that you could put in and go on. I mean, just look at these things that are on the side from all the mounts, and then the hard drive cage that I didn't put back in earlier. So this, for me, because I can't think about pricing at the moment, which again I'm annoyed about, hasn't really affected my thought about the award, because I do think it deserves the Innovation Award. The fact that you can remove that roof and you can get a couple of fat rads in the roof. Now that takes me back to the old days of cutting radiator things in for like the mountain mods cases, where you could remove panels and stuff, or cutting them into Land Lee cases. It has a very old school, really cool kind of vibe to it. And I do think there are members of the PC Master Race out there that are going to thoroughly embrace the possibilities of this. And it's because of that, there are plenty of cases out there that cost a lot of money. I can see one here, the Corsair 1000D. It was a lot of money, but loads of people aspired to get it because of what they could do inside. And what I am going to say is, because I would genuinely, if you end up buying one of these, message me on Twitter, the details are underneath. Message me on Instagram, the details are underneath. I would love to share your build, because the sheer amount of options in this, I actually am genuinely personally interested in what you guys do, to see if I've missed something. Can I learn from you? So please do share. I will share them with everybody else, if you don't mind. Might even put them on Facebook. Might even start putting some stuff on the website for you as well. But this is a cracker, and I'm genuinely looking forward to seeing what you guys at home do with it. I apologise that the video was really long, but it's a personal video and it's not scripted. So you just get my brain fart. So I hope you enjoyed it. If you managed to get to the end, congratulations. And you get yourself an internet cookie, which most people end up telling me about underneath, and I then come and heart your comment. The other thing with your internet cookies is that's a congratulation point for getting to the end. But please, if you get your internet cookie, like, subscribe, comment, and all of that sort of stuff. Please do follow me on socials. Thank you very much for sitting pretty and tuning in to the end. But for now, at least, this has been the tiniest one, probably going to lose his voice, with another video for you out. Ding! Love you, sis.